Our first step in learning WordPress is to set up an environment where you can practice and develop and discover everything without really having to worry about breaking anything. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a local development environment, one that's installed right on your computer. And in order to do that, you have to have several things. You have to have a web server. You also have to have a database and PHP, because PHP is the programming language that WordPress uses. And you have to have something that's able to interpret the code. And what PHP does is generate the HTML that is sent to your browser. So we need to have an environment where you have all of those installed on your local computer so that you can see your WordPress database or your WordPress website right there on your computer. And fortunately, we have a simple solution for both Mac and Windows. It's called MAMP. It's funny that MAMP is available for Windows because I think at least originally it stood for Mac, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So this one's for Macintosh. There's also a WAMP, which is Windows, Apache's Macintosh, or MySQL and PHP. But MAMP is available for Windows. So we will use this. I'm on a Mac, but if you're on Windows, you'll also use MAMP. And what that stands for, Apache is your web server, MySQL is the database, and PHP is the language. So we're going to go to download and see it's available for both Mac and Windows. I already have it downloaded and installed. So to download it, you just click here. It's going to download a PKG file, which is what's used to install things on a Macintosh. But I wanted just to show you a few things that I want to make sure that you have set up. And that's not what I want. Here we go, MAMP. Okay, there's a few things I want I changed that I think is a good idea to change. So first is the ports. Make sure your Apache port is 80. That way you won't have to have any numbers in your URL. You'll just be able to be at localhost. Okay? And then also, if you care about where the files are stored on your computer, you can change that here. I changed it actually into a Dropbox folder so that I have a backup for it. But if you want to use a documents folder, wherever you want, you can change that here. Then you click here to start, and when you do, then you can. Okay, here's the page that I want to be at. It's localhost/MAMP. You'll notice when I show it on Windows in a moment, this is a similar web page, but the URL is the same. Localhost, that means that you're right here on your computer, /MAMP. This is just a helpful homepage that we'll use to be able to set up our database and such. So we are successfully running this from our computer, and so the next step we'll have is to load WordPress onto our computer. That's what we'll do next. I will now show you how to do the very same thing on Windows, and again, it's pretty simple. You want to change the same settings, but because it's Windows, it's just slightly different. Installing MAMP on Windows is pretty straightforward also. So I'm here at the MAMP website, and you can just Google it. But it recognizes that I'm on Windows. I can click on free download, and it will take me to the downloads page. And here is the one for Windows. I can click on that, and it will download the installer. I've already done that, and so I am going to just go ahead and run the installer. And there are some things that probably it's a good idea to show you. There's a few settings that you should be aware of. Again, it's not super complicated, and probably it would work fine if you don't do all of the, if you don't set it up exactly in the way that I'm saying. But I know people do run into problems occasionally with this, and so I just want to make sure that you get it right. Forgive me for the slow computer. I'm borrowing this from someone, and they're gracious enough to let me use this. I assume if you don't have this exact version of Windows that it'll work just fine, or similarly. Alright, welcome to the setup wizard. It's important that you have this install Apple Bonjour, but I will unclick MAMP Pro because the features you get in Pro, which you pay for, are really nice. But this is what we're installing is functional, is perfectly adequate for our needs, and it's free. So accept the terms. That location is fine. That shortcut's fine. If you want to create the desk icon, fine. Alright, then we're going to install. And so I will, this will take a while, so just come back in several minutes, make sure that it's working fine. Even if it hangs up at the very, very end, most likely it was a successful install. So I will meet you back on the other side of this install. Okay, we're back here, and our installation is complete. So I can open MAMP. The first thing, before we start the server, I'd like to change a few settings. And it's in preferences. First one is, well, just make sure your Apache port is at 80. Sometimes the default will be different. And I'm going to change the MySQL port to 8889. Alright, so I'm going to, I guess, wait till this takes effect. Oh, I guess it's starting right now. So the Apache server has started. Now we're waiting for the MySQL to start. And it doesn't look like MySQL is starting. And if that doesn't happen, then this won't open properly. Oh, there we go. Excellent. So, my typical problem of being a little impatient. Anyway, so this is now running from my local computer. It says localhost/MAMP. So that's the objective of this tutorial, is just to make sure that we have a web server, Apache web server, MySQL, our database, well, that's the language is MySQL. It's the database. And no, MySQL is the database, SQL is the language, and PHP all installed. And we do. So now we are ready to install WordPress.